Hello. So, should you divorce your wife? Look, man, I'm not going to beat around the bush. I'm not going to blow smoke up your behind. No man on the internet can tell you what you should or shouldn't do about getting divorced. So, hopefully you got friends and family that can help you make this a decision. But essentially, this is a decision that you got to make on your own. But if you want to hear what I got to say about it, stick around. So there's a couple things to look at here. So first question, do you have kids? Are they still in the home? If the answer is yes to both those questions, then in my opinion, divorce needs to be the last thing you do. Another way to say that, you should try everything before you get a divorce. And by everything, I mean everything. And I know that it's easy to think that you've tried everything when you really haven't. And so I can appreciate that maybe you tried some things, maybe you tried different ways of communicating, of interacting with your wife, and still things are not good. Okay, fantastic. But I also think that a lot of times, I understand the effort that it takes to move outside your comfort zone, to do something different. And I understand that putting forth that much effort just a couple times can feel like everything, when in fact it's not. So have you really tried everything? And that's the answer to that question is probably no. So in my opinion, you want to be able to say that you tried everything before you go through with that, before you have a divorce. Now maybe that's not your opinion, I don't know. And the reason that is, a big reason that is because one day you are going to need to tell the story to your kids about how the family broke up. And I know that there's there's a lot of stuff being said about, oh, the family's not broken, it's just, a different structure and stuff. And sure, okay, that's true. That's another way of looking at it. But the fact is that your kids have the best chance of success and positive outcomes if mom and dad are living together under the same roof. Now, there's some exceptions, ends of the bell curve. There's some exceptions to that, of course. But in general, your kids are better off with both of you under the roof. Okay? So that's why, and one day you're going to have to explain it to your kids. As adults, you're going to have to tell them the story of what happened. And you want to be able to look at your kids straight in the face and say with a clear conscience that you tried everything. So have you really tried everything? And the second thing about that is, what are you getting a divorce for? If there's abuse, addiction, adultery, those are the three things that, in my opinion, are the places to start asking that question. If there's no adultery, if there's no abuse, if there's no affairs, then in my opinion, and you have kids, you got no business asking this question. My opinion, no business asking this question. Because if you want to get a divorce because you're not happy, well, so what? You're not happy? Who's happy? I mean, happiness is not a reason it's not a reason to do anything. Happiness is not a reason to break up the family. Or lack of happiness is not the reason to break up the family. Now, in our culture, that's held up as the values, like, oh, you gotta be happy, you gotta be happy. Nonsense. Here's a formula for misery. Make happiness your goal and then chase it. That's a great way to be miserable. Happiness is what happens to people when they decide what they want, when they set goals, and then they pursue them. Has nothing to do with your marriage. Well, okay, some things to do with your marriage. But what I mean is if things are not perfect in your marriage, that's not a reason to get divorced. If your wife is not kind to you, that's not a reason really to get divorced. It is a reason to set some boundaries, and I got some videos somewhere around here for that. So, now maybe you don't have kids. And if you don't have kids, I gotta ask you one serious question. What'd you get married for? Are you planning on having kids? Okay, good, makes sense. But if you're not planning on having kids, what'd you get married for? Really? probably believing in some fairy tales. What I mean is like divorce is hard, or sorry, marriage is hard for the best of us, you know? It's hard. It's an iterative process of developing and getting better, learning to communicate 1,000 different things all at once. It's hard for everybody. But it's the perfect vehicle. It's the best, not perfect. It's the best vehicle for raising kids. So we want to raise kids in a family. But if we don't want to raise kids, what are you getting married for? Maybe companionship. Yeah, you know, maybe. I'm sure there's some decent reasons. But if you don't have kids and you don't plan on having kids with this person, with this woman, then I would ask you why you're married in the first place. Because it just doesn't make sense to me, according to my math and my calculation, why anybody would do that. Doesn't make sense. But if you want to stay married, check out some of my other content. I focus on masculinity, on attraction, because in my estimation, that's the most overlooked part of this whole thing, of the whole marriage thing. Being a good man, being a masculine man, creating this polarity, and then using that, and that being sort of the foundation for generating attraction with your wife, which is important. So check out, I got some links in the comments below for some free content. Enjoy yourself. If you got any questions, you want to talk about, you know, divorce and marriage and stuff, leave them in the comments. I'm happy to respond.